Well, hello again, and thanks to the Sun newspaper. My name's Dr. Ken Baker, and I'm talking to Pam Troy. It's good to see you, Pam. Hey! So
Good to see you.
Pam is from Zimbabwe, and she is a mother and a worker in a pastoral team in Central Ireland, and a variety of other things as well. We were going to get her before, but she was on a food bank kind of call. So she's one of those typical female multitaskers. Is that a sexist thing to say? All right. So anyway, it's great to see you, Pam. All right then. Are you busy today?
No, today is quite a quiet day at home with the kids, and so yeah, it's a family day today. So
okay. So how many children do you have, Pam? How many kids?
I have 3 kids, 1 girl, 2 boys.
Oh.
So it's not a quiet house.
And how are you managing with the lockdown? Are you doing homeschooling?
We did, yes. We're kind of in a summer break at the moment, so everybody's a bit relaxed. But we did from the middle of March when the lockdown started, we kind of became teachers. And it was quite challenging, but I have to say, after a while, when we got the hang of it, we really started to enjoy it, and loved being having that part again to play in our kids' lives. They actually, instead of going, I'm going to go ask the teacher what the answer is, they're like, Mom, what's the answer? You know, so you're like, hey, finally, I'm back in the game.
Back in the game, have the power. No, that's good, because I mean, originally, historically, you know, the schools were invented just to help the parents do their stuff, wasn't it? It wasn't a sort of thing in itself. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memories, Pam? I said you're from Zimbabwe. Were you from a city or from the country?
Well, we lived, our home was 14 kilometers outside Bulawayo city. So it wasn't quite country, but it wasn't bang in the middle. You know, it's quite densely populated sort of community. So it was quite, your neighbors, you could see over their fence or through over their window. But anyway, we grew up, my mom had a strong Christian faith. So we grew up going to church, and she took us to church quite often, had Bible studies in the morning. And because my grandmother passed that over to her as well, and stuff. So we had, even though we didn't have, at the time, we hadn't given our lives to the Lord, we were brought up with the fear of God, and went to church and stuff. So that was kind of my early life growing up back home. And later on,
you said fear of the Lord. You paused with it sounded it sounded a little bit fear of the Lord. And also you're saying, so you were like trained and taught by females, by your like your grandmother and your mother. Okay.
Well, when it comes to our Christian faith, yes, there would have been the greatest influences. My dad would have had. He was a Christian before, but he left, and he left his faith, and then after that he kind of turned quite far away from it. So he wouldn't have been keen on us even going to church. I remember some Sundays my mom would sneak us to church and make sure that we came back on time. And if you were late, you were really given up to terribly. But she made sure that you go, but we had to come back. So you wouldn't have been the kind of person who was strong in faith or wanted to hear a lot about faith going in the house. But my mom kind of made sure that we had respect, with great respect for my dad, because we were brought up, our culture, you have respect for your parents.
Yeah.
And so my mom.
How many children were in the family there?
Well, my dad had been married before, so I had brothers and sisters that were older than me. But from my mom and dad's marriage, I'm the oldest, and I have 3 siblings. So it was kind of like four of us in their marriage, and then I had 2 older sisters and a few brothers that didn't live in the house, that lived in South Africa.
So quite an extended family there.
Yes.
So you grew up in Zimbabwe, and of course this is Mugabe's Zimbabwe, isn't it? This is so. was it like politically difficult, or I don't suppose you'd have been very aware of what was going on in the country as a whole? Was it a tricky place to grow up in, or was it you didn't really know
Um,
that stuff?
Well, I didn't really notice at the time because I was quite young when a lot of things were going on. Now, my dad would have fought in the Civil War, and
Yeah.
so he would have experienced a lot of things and had a lot of stories about what he had gone through, and under the hand of Mugabe and his government, because he would have been imprisoned during the Civil War at the time. So there was a lot of stories about that we heard, but we were quite young, and I think in the early uh, uh, 90s, things seemed like they were okay, especially for us as kids. It just seemed like things were kind of okay, and they kind of got worse as time continued on. They kind of got worse. But I left home when I was 17, so I kind of missed when things really started to go really bad. I was kind of out of the country at the time.
Okay. So you moved from Zimbabwe and you came to London. You moved,
Yeah.
so, which is an interesting transition. So you're moving into the big city.
Yeah.
Then you and so you and you come to or you're baptized in a church in London. That right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And
So
then I just wanted to ask you about this thing here about when you got married. Tell us about when you got.
yeah, so I moved to London, and after a few years, I kind of lost my way a bit, and then had an incredible encounter, gave my life to the Lord, and was baptized in the church in a town called Hayes, and it was absolutely amazing. My life literally changed from night to day, and God just took over. After a while, anyhow, my visa had run out and I had to go home. But at that time, I was already dating and engaged to a guy, and that's my
Anthony.
Anthony. Yes. So it kind of got a bit tricky, and I'd been applying for my visa to get renewed, but it was kind of getting a bit. I suppose it was looking suspicious because now I was applying it, and then there was already somebody else, and Anthony's Irish, so it just looked a bit like it didn't look quite right. So I didn't get the visa. So in the end, there was nothing really else to do but to go back home, and so we prayed about it and felt really there's nothing else to do. We can either do an appeal or whatever else, but however, it just feels like we want to do right by God. And so we can't stay here any longer without, I can't stay here any longer without the visa. So went back to Zimbabwe and applied again from Zimbabwe, applied again for the visa.
Okay, let's
And
just pause there because this is really, really interesting. And you think of, because people will be listening to this, thinking about immigration issues, also about relational issues. And so I just wanted to pause and say that is really, really interesting. So you're going back not just to another country, but you're going to Zimbabwe in the middle of economic and social meltdown.
oh,
You're going there to get a visa to come back to Great Britain, and you're planning on marrying an Irish guy. So this is really whoa.
it was something else.
Be praying.
It was,
Now, what was Anthony's perspective on your well, presumably it's a joint decision, but what was his take on going back to Zimbabwe?
well, at the time when I was going back, we kind of prayed and we thought, Lord, we're giving it in your hands, and we're believing that and come back with the right visa, I'll be able to come back.
Right.
So we kind of, when it first started, that was it. We were just looking at it as like it's going to be a short-term thing going on. But of course, going to Zimbabwe, and as you said, it was 2005. Things were really going that were at their worst in Zimbabwe, and the government was getting all the white Zimbabweans out of the country, and even the Zimbabweans that lived in the country lived in fear because their businesses were being burnt down. Their different things were kind of going. So it wasn't really settled at the time. And so, and when I got there and I applied for my visa, I didn't get it. After waiting for a few months, I didn't get the visa. So we sat there, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, what's going to happen next? And I have to admit, at that time, I was like, okay, I probably need to start preparing myself that I need to let go of this relationship because things are, this may not happen. But in my heart, I was sure, I was like, God, you're God wherever I am. So you will watch over me. You will watch over us, but we want to put you first. So we just left it like that. And but then Anthony, out of the blue, sent a text message. I remember sent a text message and said, how about we get married over there? Which sounded really crazy. It was a bit like, have you read the headlines?
And that's what he did. That's what you did.
That's what he did. That's what he did.
He comes across to Zimbabwe in the middle of all this meltdown. He marries his girl. Well, that is fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, I do have a quote from Anthony from that period here, that he's saying he was asked the question, but you realize they're shooting white people, and he said, only the British.
Yes.
I said, but I'm Irish. That is a great quote. That's wonderful. All right. So
Yes.
you get married, and this is like 15 years ago now.
Yes.
15, 14 years ago. And then you move back to England, and then on to Ireland, back to Anthony's home turf. I suppose it's only fair. It's only fair, isn't it? You get married in Zimbabwe, you do things your way, and then you go back and then you do things his way just for a bit. I think that's got a kind of poetic justice. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how God works? I didn't see that coming at all. But indeed, after we moved, and we had our first baby, a little girl, and then Anthony just felt in his heart, he could feel God. He kept talking about it over and over again, Ireland, because he wanted to be part of serving in Ireland. And so, and for me at the time, I was like, ooh, I don't know, I'm not quite sure and stuff. But, and I have to say, it took a while. And I was in it I can remember clearly, it was one day I was having a really amazing time of prayer and just worshiping God. And, when you get in that moment where you say, Lord, I'll give you anything, whatever you ask, Lord, I would. And I was in that place. And in the quietness of my heart, I really felt God say, go to Ireland. And it just stopped me in my tracks right there. I just thought, whoa, okay, this is real, yeah. And we stopped and I prayed and talked to Anthony about it, and we still gave that time to God and just pray and wait on the Lord to see what exactly did He want us to do, and are we doing the right thing? Are we really hearing from Him, and what are we supposed to, where we're supposed to go, and stuff. And that's it. And
so you moved into Ireland, and then you began to work with a variety of churches, with Methodist Church, with Elim Pentecostal Church, and work independently in different ways. And then you had two more children, two young boys.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you went to Bible college there. That's right?
Yes. Okay. Went to IBI, Irish Bible Institute in Dublin, and did a degree there. Okay. Just finished just last September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is for what purpose? What are you aiming at here with the degree?
Well, when we were coming into Ireland, God had given us the word serving. Well, that was the one key word that we had. And so we knew that whatever we're going to do, we are going to be serving. So the more we were ministering and doing whatever God called us to do, whether being a part of a church and part of the projects that go on in the church, encouraging whatever, where God placed us, it was stronger in my heart, and God kept putting it stronger. This was what He wanted me to do fully. Now, at the time, I had loads of different things going on. I did a bit of wedding singing for a little bit. I loved baking cakes, and I was thinking of actually going to college and doing that fully. So there are a few things pulling me on different sides, but this kept being the pull constantly, that this is so I just started to pray about it and just asked frankly, and said, Lord, I'm pulled everywhere, and I could do any of these things because I love them. But I would like to know what you want me to do. I want to live on purpose.
Okay, good. Live on purpose.
What I want. This is what I so direct me on what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And it was literally the following day. We woke up and just somebody came over and said, you know what, you should go into Bible college. You need to take this ministry seriously. You need to take what God is calling you to do seriously.
And the ministry.
Had that.
Yeah, you know, if that's the key. Excuse me, I cut across you. When we give it a capital letter, and we'd say minister, the ministry. But of course, it just means serve, doesn't it? It just means servant. It just means a servant, one who just does what, like that lady in the Bible. It says she did what she could. She did what she could. Yeah. So it maybe minister just needs that small M. You don't need that big M to. Yeah. It can do a self-importance, I guess. Yeah.
That's it. I think the big M is quite distracting from what the purpose of what God calls you to do is, and it is not about the being at the top of anything. And he said we have to be the servant of them all. So that's what we need to seek to do. So he was just taking seriously the serving and living that out on purpose. Okay. And so that meant that, and the next step, and a few different things happened at the time that confirmed that this was the right direction to take. And I went to IBI really with I wanted to really get to understand or know the description of my faith. That when I go out and tell other people about my faith, sharing the gospel, I'm not just talking about how I feel or what I think and all that kind of stuff, because sometimes I went in the middle and disturbed some of the things that were of God because of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of what does that mean. And of course, you meet people who are really hurt, who challenge your beliefs. And so if you're not really quite, you don't really know where you stand or what you truly believe and why you believe what you believe, then they're not able to see or hear God or hear that message if you yourself don't know it very well. So I went to IBI with that heart, and I have to say it was a great experience of learning about myself, growing closer to the Lord, not just filling the mind with the knowledge, but also being equipped to actually serve, to actually do things in the community, and having a heart for mission and for the things of God.
Good. Well, let's just ask you one more question, because now I understand that you've actually become an Irish citizen now, haven't you? So you've fully invested into your country, which is fascinating when you consider the trajectory of your life, and then you've given this wonderful picture of ministry and service and just giving, which of course is the picture that Jesus gave, isn't it? He showed his love by washing feet. The Son of Man comes to serve and not to be served. That's great. But and forgive me putting it this way, but being an African lady in what can be sometimes a male-dominated and white society, is that an issue? And don't answer as much or as little as you like. You are, in some circumstances, you might say that you haven't made things easy for yourself. But what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
It is definitely an issue, and I think an issue for some people. For me, it hasn't been an issue, because we know the God we serve. He said, for now there is no Gentile, there's no Jew, there's no male, female, slave or free, all in Christ. So knowing that, it gives me the confidence to move forward in what he calls me to do, or where he calls me to be. And being part of where I am in Ireland, I came and I embraced the the culture. And I love looking at the life of Patrick, how he came and embraced the culture and just the people as well. And they become my people, and I become a part of this community that I'm in. So I go out with embracing, and therefore for me, it's not an issue. But of course you do meet people that would find that difficult. For them, they see what they see, that one, you're female, and two, you're not from here, you're a foreigner. For them, automatically it's the stumbling block. It triggers some things in them. That maybe
There's a contemporary term, trigger. Triggers, Pam.
It just brings things up that they whether they knew that those things were there, who knows, or whether they know that they're there and they feel strongly about them. I don't know. But in every different situations that I've encountered in my life where I've met those people find the struggle, whether you're a woman or you're a foreigner, they find those struggles. I find this, God hasn't made it my responsibility to change their mindset and their thinking.
Good.
Or for them to accept that I'm a woman and I'm serving God, or I'm also a woman who's African in Ireland serving God. So therefore I keep that space that's for them and for God to deal with them. But however, for me to stand, I have to stand firmly in what He says that I am, and confidently, and also loving them past whatever it is that's going on. Because mine is the responsibility, as well as Christ said, we love everybody. We do not judge by what we see and their appearance. So they're finding it hard to do that for me, but it doesn't mean that I have to find it hard to love them, no matter what they think of my culture or my skin color or my gender. But it is God's voice that I keep trying to listen to. Now, it doesn't mean it's not challenging, that sometimes it knocks you down and you struggle and that you want to hide in your house and you don't want to get up. Sometimes those things happen, but over the different knockdowns and falling down and getting up, listening to the voice of God has been something that has been an important thing for me. Knowing that when you're ministry, you're serving, it's not about the perks. It's about listening to Him. So when those voices that applaud you are not there, or encourage you or say, yes, isn't that great what you're doing? It is Him you're listening to, and it's never whether they applaud or whether they are offended because of anything, but it's just Him that you're listening to. So that's been my main thing. Anyway, I'm sure everybody else's experience is probably different.
Of course, but what you've done is given a very articulate and a very Christian perspective to what is a huge issue nowadays. And I really thank you for it. You've said it very, very well. You started off with the idea of service, and you finish with the idea of well, I have to make sure my service goes down a certain path. So I'm not going to be bound by these things. If other people are bound, that doesn't stop me serving, which is, I think it's the Jesus way, isn't it? That's great. That's great. Well, bless your heart. It's been wonderful to talk to you and to listen to something of your story. And well, God's blessing on you and your family, and the brave and wonderful Anthony who made all this possible, and your kids. So thanks for your time, Pam, and your input into what it is to be a Christian in what's sometimes a very challenging situation. All right. Okay. Thanks, Pam, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Take care.